So innovation always comes with this duality, which I think is why people have a hard time getting their heads around it.
Yeah. Pete, when you're talking, so you're bringing me back to my former life as a researcher, and I used to research creativity, which is another aspect, right, of innovation. And there's this thing in creativity research, right, about inspiration versus perspiration.
Hmm.
So when I think about the feedback loop that you're talking about, I mean, there's definitely merits to kind of all of the sort of frameworks you laid out, but that's the one that speaks to me the most in terms of like my experiences with the health plans. And when I link that to this inspiration and perspiration part, really what that's talking about is you have to put in the work to have sort of a core level of competency in what you're trying
Hmm.
to be creative or innovative about, in order to free you up to figure out how to break out of the boundaries, right, of whatever the common knowledge is in that sort of core competency. And so when I think about operational excellence, right, or the maturity of a health plan needing to get to a certain level, to free them up sort of creatively to think about what to do, in order to innovate and keep improving. Uh, that aligns really well. And Rex, Mick, I'm interested in what you think about that with my experience in working with health plans all across the country, right? Of starting up a new health plan, and really needing to get your legs under you and make sure that all your processes are as good as they can be. And that does tend to get you to a certain level, right? But then in order to get kind of over that hump into bonus territory, you really have to start thinking a little harder about how to approach the problem in much more than just a baseline way. And you have to start getting creative and innovative about how you approach your provider partners, how you approach your members, how you grow. You have to start to work smarter, not harder, right? So moving from that perspiration part into the inspiration part becomes really, really important for getting there and then staying there.
I can see organizations on that maturity graph, right? Um, if you haven't yet, and I think you said innovation may be necessitated when operational excellence has already been attained. So, as far as piloting, doing those test pilots, I can imagine if I'm an organization that hasn't quite gotten through operational improvement, operational excellence yet, and I still have these foundational things that I haven't solved for that are pain points from my members, I'm probably less likely to be willing to invest in small pilots because I feel like everything I do has to be meaningful to and big to solve these big pain points that I have. Is that the right mentality though? Would you agree with that, or would you say don't be afraid to innovate even if you
It,
haven't gotten to that stage yet?
I think that I think it's, obviously you need to have certain basic capabilities in place, and if you're still fighting huge fires in that area, maybe you should focus on that. Because those capabilities will also help you to innovate. But I think perfection can be your enemy too. You will never get perfect at
Hmm.
execution or at have all the operational improvements exhausted, and so I wouldn't want that to be an excuse to say, well, I first need to be perfect, before I attempt something. Again, things can be attempted as a matter of degree, and so think of innovation, as muscle development. So maybe you're at the point where you think, hey, maybe we should try something new. Not Nothing too rough, right? Just a little bit. Let's just try something here and see how it works out. And you're starting to develop those muscles, right? Then the muscles get stronger, and it's really like an organizational fitness that then goes up. People see that they tried something a little different. It wasn't a disaster. And maybe they get a bit more confident. Maybe they learn something, so the skill levels go up. And by the way, that was a lot of the organizations who weren't doing well. That was one of the big hurdles that they complained about, that they didn't have the skilled people to innovate, and the ones who did well didn't cite that nearly as much as a hurdle to innovation. So again, start upskilling your people by making these little attempts, and that's a way to kind of build up those innovation muscles.